we are now operating at incredible scale within India. Just for some numbers, we are now regularly delivering over 1 billion viewers every IPL season. This season we crossed 1.2.
Right.
In the recently concluded ICC World Cup, we set the record for the highest concurrency globally for any single event at 72.5 million. But what I take away from that is that live sports, and specifically cricket, is unique. And what I mean by that is today we operate in a world where content supply across both traditional media as well as social media is infinite. And there are very few properties that can aggregate audiences at the scale that live sports can. If I think of what that means for us as a platform, we have to make sure that that huge overall number and that scale doesn't hide the complexity that sits between. That 1 billion plus viewership includes somebody who's sitting in South Mumbai watching the game on a connected TV, but it also includes somebody who's on a mobile phone in a village in India. And obviously a one-size-fits-all proposition doesn't work for both. So one example of how we work through that is to try and personalize the experience through language. Right. On IPL, for example, we had over 12 different languages that could consume the property in.
Right.
And we are now at a stage where English consumption of IPL is less than 10% of our watch time. Wow. 90% comes from Indian languages, and if you remove Hindi, all the other regional languages grew 2 times as fast as the rest of the feed. So it just gives you an idea of the personalization that you need in order to succeed with the scale that you're talking about. IPL is a phenomenon. Vivek, as you know, as I'm sure many people in the room also know, but I just wanted to first state that IPL is critical to our overall strategy, but it's not the only acquisition engine that we have. We spoke briefly about the ICC.
Right.
The World Cups are an amazing property, but now we're at a stage on the platform where we have over 350 days of live sports across many different sports. If I just take one example, the Premier League alone in India now has over 100 million viewers in the last season. That's more than the population of the UK.
Right.
We have tennis. Wimbledon last year saw 80% growth in its digital reach. The US Open that followed straight after saw 75% growth in our overall reach. So there's just an example of consumption in India across live sports really taking off. For non-cricket, I think there is a huge upside in India, which is massively untapped. One of the things that we have, we're lucky enough to have as a platform is the cricket funnel that comes in to experience the particular sport. We can help direct that to other sports to drive sampling and to drive eventually fandom there. So a good example of that is Kabaddi. People in the room might not be familiar, but that is India's second largest watched sport. Last season, we did well over 200 million viewers. And that was a property that was built entirely by us over the last 10 years. And now it's a completely unique in-stadium experience as well as a broadcast experience. And what it showed to us was it proved that you could take this top of funnel that is coming to watch some of these marquee sports and then direct them to others and see that growth. So Kabaddi has been very successful, and I think that proves that there is a huge roadmap for many of the other sports as well.
Tell me a little bit about that and the audience a bit about that, this Swiggy integration, how it came about, what does it do for the consumer experience and for your sort of proof of concept for the monetization layer, and what does it mean now for more partnerships? You know?
Yeah, Swiggy, just for everybody else in the room, is the equivalent of Uber Eats or Grab in the region.
Yeah.
One of the consumer insights that we've been working with is that, look, in this world of so much content and so many competing priorities for your time, consumer attention spans are dropping dramatically. So the more we can provide user experiences that are all-encompassing, the more you're able to drive engagement and stickiness to an overall platform. Now, coming to content commerce, the thing that we think we need to get right is the connection between the commerce category and the content that's playing. And if I just use IPL and cricket as an example, an IPL game typically runs between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. or 10:30 p.m., so that's dinner time. And so we know that there is a very natural user behavior that when somebody's watching a game, they probably want to order some food and not spend time in the kitchen, for example. And so we did this integration with Swiggy, and it was a native integration into the app, which basically allowed a user to watch the game and buy and transact and complete their food delivery and track the delivery order all within the app,
Right.
never leaving the screen altogether. So of all the orders that we drove to Swiggy, 30% of them came from people who had never transacted before on their platform. And that's a very valuable audience for them. Now for us, that would, again, hopefully over a period of time, drive engagement, and that opens up new monetization streams.
I also want to talk to you about the OpenAI partnership. You and I briefly chatted when you announced it in India. It's very exciting. And also they're a partner for you in the IPL. But tell us what that's all about.
So the OpenAI integration, again, is a deep product integration with our platform, which allows you not just to content discovery using voice search and modalities like that, but more importantly, it allows you to go much deeper into the fan experience itself. So now you can watch IPL, and while you're seeing Rajasthan Royals bat, you can say, what was Vaibhav Suryavanshi's strike rate in the last IPL till date? And then ChatGPT will bring that answer to you to really bring you a much more in-depth consumer experience that we think is very differentiated from anyone else in the market and really goes to the core of what drives fandom.
You've carried a lot of heavy provisions on sports historically. With a lot of these rights being renewed around 27, this is not just cricket, by the way, it's across sport. How is the group and how are you thinking about what to keep, what to change, and what are the cost components in the future, to change? What needs to evolve for the match to work in these partnerships?
Media rights constitute a disproportionate share of the overall money in the overall ecosystem. So getting this right is super important for us,
right,
but also for, I think, the rights holders. I think there are two sets of things that need to happen. One is, of course, on the cost side, as you mentioned. There are changes that need to be accounted for going forward. One example of that is real money gaming was a very major advertising category. In fact, it was the largest advertising category on sports. Now, that no longer exists. But I think cost is only one side of it. I think it's incumbent on us to figure out how to drive monetization and new revenue streams and get more out of these marquee assets. Content commerce is one example of it. Maybe there are futures, the OpenAI partnership might open up few doors, for example. And I think it's a combination of both these sides that we need to look at going forward. The good news is that I think there are many forward-looking administrators in cricket, as well as in many other sports, who understand this and are keen to work with us and other people in the ecosystem to get this balance right.
How do you see advertising around live sports evolving, Ishan? Particularly over the next couple of years, particularly with the advances in personalization and interactivity that you're talking about?
On advertising, the area that I think we do a very, very good job of already is the top of funnel, big branding campaigns where you need national scale, where you want to hit 100 million type of user base at one shot. But as we've seen, consumer attention spans have dropped so dramatically over the last few years as a result of social media and so many other competing priorities on people's time that I think providing more and more engagement opportunities and personalizing them to each viewer is the way to go. And in doing so, we will create many new advertising opportunities. On content commerce, for example, we spoke about the Swiggy partnership just now. So for example, in the future, if we're able to get the content commerce engine going, you can imagine individual restaurants wanting to come in and in some way participate in this advertising journey by not just advertising their particular this thing, but maybe dedicated menus, maybe exclusive offers. There's an entire ecosystem out there that could develop if we get this right. So that's just one aspect of it that could be very big. The second area is, of course, on going deeper into the advertiser profile itself as we build clearer and clearer targeting capabilities. And that's an area that I think can also be unlocked for sure.